Good afternoon. Welcome to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Wednesday, April the 30th, 2014. What I want to talk about is the internet, technology, and how it relates to Donald Sterling. Because this is still, going to be the news until Donald Sterling is officially removed or until the team is actually sold. The Los Angeles Clippers is actually sold. I want to talk about particularly technology because Mark Cuban, the day before the ruling, made a statement where he was saying it's a slippery slope. Well, he was condemning his words, but he was saying it's a slippery slope that you will take away somebody's franchise because they're a moron, especially something that he said in the privacy of his own home. Let me talk about privacy here, folks. If you want to keep things private, the best thing to do, keep it to yourself. Don't let the next person know about it. Because once the next person knows about it, it's no longer privacy. As my aunt one time said, my Aunt Evelyn, and she has a lot of sayings. One of which is, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Okay? Because why? It can expose you. Alright? You got to understand something. When you harbor ill thoughts about ill will or bad thoughts about other human beings, it's best to keep it to yourself. Because if you keep it to yourself, you can never get exposed. But once you tell somebody that, your ill will, your thoughts, your dislike for others, you risk being exposed. Now, you might think that you have that person's confidence that they would never tell any other individual. You don't know that. And look, folks, once that information gets out to the public, in other words, once it's on the internet, it's no longer private. It's now there for the public to witness and see and hear. And then the public is going to form their own opinions. This is not a legality issue. Okay? I blame Mark Cuban, Robert Herjavec, and others. If you don't know who Robert Herjavec is, he's another one of those members of Shark Tank. These are technology gurus. Guys who help create the internet and all sorts of other technology. Well, you see, there are good things about the internet. The internet allows you to get information fast. It allows you to research information. It allows you to do a lot of things. Okay? See, 30 years ago, before the internet, Donald Sterling would have been able to bury this story. All he has to do is just pay off the reporter or the person who has the information, and guess what? That information will hardly see the light of day. Today, we live in a new day and age. It's called the information age. And in the information age, you can't pay everybody off. It's not that simple now, because once it gets on the internet, like Bob Lee from Outside the Lines recently said, once it hits the internet, you can't pay the entire internet off. You can't pay everybody who's on the internet off. It goes viral. And someone also says, we don't live in a 24/7 news cycle. We live in a 1-minute news cycle, which means once it gets on the internet, it spreads in minutes. And then it becomes impossible to stop it. Now, why is this important? Because if you're going to promote technology and the internet, you're going to get all the good stuff that comes with it. But you're going to also get all the downside that comes with it. And this is one of the downsides. It is easy to become exposed today. This is why I always say, because on Facebook, and I have a Facebook account, I have a Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all those other accounts. I do have an account, but I hardly ever post on them. Why? Because you never know who's reading your posts. And people form opinions about you based off what you say and do on the internet. So I always say to people, be very careful what you say on the internet, because it's not, you got to treat the internet like a court of law. What you say and do is going to be held against you. But instead of in a court of law, it's going to be in the court of public opinion. It's going to be held against you. And these young folks must understand that. This is why you don't fight with family online. You don't talk ghetto-ish online. Because I'm on Facebook, and there's certain people that I follow that have some ghetto-ish in them as far as their talk, their speech. What's the problem with that? Well, you never know if you're trying to apply for a job. A prospective employer Googles up your name. Guess what? It's going to show a Facebook account. Let's assume you have a Facebook account. This person has a Facebook. And then this employer is reading your ghetto-ish talk. And they're reading your mindset, how you think. Guess what? That could be the difference between you getting the job and not getting it. Because if you talk ghetto-ish on there, no employer really wants to hire you. At least not for no responsible position. So you got to be very, very careful what you put on the internet these days. That's why, to me, if it's not productive, it's best not to put it on the internet. If you feel the need to post or note down your daily thoughts, there's a thing called a notebook with a pad and pen. Write it down in a diary. Now, no one else needs to know your thoughts. This is the downside to the internet, folks. Okay? And Donald Sterling just learned that firsthand. Now you can't just pay somebody off to keep this quiet. This is the downside to the internet. So Mark Cuban, Robert Herjavec, and all you other guys, you got to understand, if you're going to create technology, make it easy access, easy to use, easy this, easy that, well, guess what? There are always drawbacks to it. And you better weigh those drawbacks before you create them. Because once you create it, there's no going back. Okay? I mean, to me, Adam Silver had no other choice to do what he did. That's why it was dumb of the reporter to say, well, it was a private conversation. And like he had to let her know. No, it's no longer private. Once it's on the internet, it's no longer private, folks. I don't care if he intended it for it to be private. That's a moot point. Okay? We all have some intentions. It doesn't mean that things work out the way we intend them to work out. Once you open your mouth or do something, there's always a chance the next person knows about it. And if the next person knows about it, they can expose, if they want to, they can do some serious damage to you. Okay? That's why Adam Silver and the league had to do what they did. Now, you can argue, well, it was about money, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. They had to do what they did. Yes, you're going to protect your financial interest. So if that means he's got to get cut off, which we're referring to that he is Donald Sterling, so be it. He's got to go. Yes, you're going to protect your financial interest. You built this global brand up, and if you don't handle things right, just as quickly as you built it up, it'll come down even quicker. Because imagine if the players had struck yesterday and refused to play. Then you can figure the players today would have also refused to play. Guess what? That's disrupting your playoffs. This kills your sport, folks. If you want your sport to become irrelevant, don't have a playoff system and see what happens. Ask baseball. Ask baseball. It took baseball years to recover from not having a playoffs. It would be better if you did what hockey did, which is not have a season, than to have a season and then in the playoffs, your season's cut short. It would have been better if you struck for the whole season and there was no season, than to have an entire season. And then you get to the postseason, and then all of a sudden you walk out. That's like cooking a nice, big, juicy porterhouse or a big, juicy, ribeye steak. a nice filet mignon, top of the line steak. They put it in front of you with your mashed potato and gravy and your string beans or collard greens or whatever else, like that corn, whatever vegetable you like. And you take some good pieces, you eat it, and then all of a sudden someone snatched the plate from you. You're going to get very angry. That's what the playoffs is like, folks. The playoffs is like a culmination of a great meal. And if you don't have that, you don't have a meal. What good is a season without a playoffs? And baseball lost a lot behind it. And look at even today, they never ever really recovered because really, when they pulled that maneuver, you know what ended up taking over? Football. Football has now become the new number one pastime. Thank you, baseball. You couldn't get out of your own way. Look how much money you're losing because you couldn't get out of your own way. Do you think football would do something that dumb? No. Because football understands one thing, money. Yesterday, Robbie Cano made his appearance to the Bronx. He played for the Yankees. He signed with the Seattle Mariners in the offseason, 10 years, almost $300 million. To me, bad contract, but that's another story for another day. And he came back to the Bronx yesterday, and he was booed. Now, why is this significant? Well, the booing would have been significant if people was actually at the stadium. You should have seen how empty yesterday's Yankee Stadium was yesterday. Like Colin Cowherd said, the Yankees reported that 32,000 people was at the stadium yesterday. You'd be lucky if there was 3,200 people at the stadium yesterday. There was hardly anybody there. So don't sit here and tell me baseball is... Bud Selig can put his head in the ground and stick his rear end up like an ostrich thinking that everything is fine. Oh, we get the ratings. You're not getting the ratings. No one is watching your sport. You mean to tell me you can't get at least half of a packed house in Yankee Stadium? And the Yankees is the most valuable franchise in baseball. So that's very, very significant, folks. The Yankees is the most valuable franchise in baseball. Hell, the Yankees may be the most valuable franchise in all of team sports. And yet, you can't even get half the people to show up yesterday. That is embarrassing if you're baseball. But this is what happens when you don't take care of business. If you don't take care of business, the business will take care of you. You don't take care of your fan base, the fan base will you're going to lose them. If those players had walked out yesterday, that would have been devastating for the NBA. Do you realize how much money the NBA would have lost? We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars would have been lost yesterday. This is big business here, folks. The NBA is in the business of promoting the league, not only nationally, but globally. That's the one advantage they have over football. American football is really more of a national sport. It doesn't have the global appeal like the way baseball or basketball does. It would have been devastating. This is why Adam Silver had to do what he did yesterday. Do you really think Adam Silver wanted to hold that press conference yesterday and do this? You're a fool if you believe that. Because here's why. What commissioner wants to come up there and give an announcement when you're having one of the best playoff series, the best first round playoffs of all time in your sport? I've never known basketball to have competitive series. It's like one series after another. Boom, boom, boom. It's competitive with the exception of Charlotte and Miami. And each game in that was competitive, even though Miami ultimately swept them. But but the series, you have some good games. And yet, what did Adam Silver have to talk about yesterday? He had to talk about Donald Sterling. What was to talk about all weekend, including leading up to the announcement? Donald Sterling. That's not what no league wants to be doing. That's one of every league's worst nightmare. other than the players going into the stands to fight. Those are two of the any league's worst nightmare. It's called PR disaster, public relations disaster, that they got to deal with this. So now, yes, you're going to make a lot of people angry. And when people get angry, they're going to make decisions. That's not going to be good for you. See, because think about it. We should have all saw that this might have been coming down the pipe when we all knew that the league was going to make an announcement Tuesday at 2 p.m. We all knew that. That was a given. That was told to us the day before. Really, we knew since Sunday. Really since Sunday. Yet, from Sunday on up to the announcement, it was never leaked what the commissioner was going to say. That's usually a bad sign. Because usually, you always get some leakage as to what is going to be said. What type of punishment is going to be handed down. So you at least have a general idea where they're leaning toward. There was nothing that came out of the New York offices. So either they did a great job keeping it quiet amongst the people, or Adam Silver kept his thoughts to himself. I'm leaning towards the latter. He kept his thoughts to himself. And if you really think Adam Silver reached that decision yesterday, you got another thing coming. That decision was reached the day that it leaked publicly. When he called up Donald Sterling, and I'm assuming he called him up Friday or if not Saturday. Once he knew about it, that sealed Donald Sterling's fate. You had to have known that. So all he wanted to know was that Donald Sterling's voice on that recording? And Donald Sterling isn't going to deny it because they can come up with the proof to show that it actually was. So you don't want to lie to the commissioner in that moment. So yeah, okay, yes, it is my voice. Thank you. That's all I need to know. You're out of here. Because here's why. He already knew the public pressure was going to come down because he got wind that the players, particularly the Clippers, was going to boycott Game 4. Game 4 of the Clippers-Warriors game. They were going to boycott it. There was talk of possibly boycotting it. So to make certain that did not pick up traction, Adam Silver got on the phone with Doc Rivers and got on the phone with Chris Paul, and he begged them, please, just give us the time. We're going to get him out. We're going to remove him. Because they knew if Chris Paul and these boys walk, so will all the other players. Because remember, this is a fraternity. Just like the owners have their little fraternity, the coaches have their little fraternity, so do the players. Nothing is different. And I don't want to hear about, well, this is a private organization. It is not private when you got the words Los Angeles across your jersey. That means you are public. You are responsible to the public. The city of Los Angeles, folks. It's not private. So I don't want to hear about this was a private corporation. It's not a private corporation, per se. Yes, it might be private that the average person can't buy stock in it, but it's not a private corporation per se, especially when you get public funding. So you answer, therefore, to the taxpayers. Because without the taxpayers, there is no building. Without the building, you can't, where are you going to play? So at the end of the day, the league answers, and every team in the league answers to the public. At the end of the day, folks. Make no mistake about it. So if the public calls for somebody's ouster, you can best believe the league, and I don't care what sport league we're talking about, they're gonna have to acquiesce to the public. Because here's why. If the people boycott, then guess who else is going to boycott? Your sponsors. The sponsors leave you in droves, guess what? You're not making no money now. You're not making any money now if your sponsors leave you. And that's what happened to Donald Sterling. That sealed his fate, folks. Once the sponsors bailed, that was it. It didn't matter that he already got paid, in advance by the sponsors. That's irrelevant. That's inconsequential. Once the sponsors bailed, he was finished. Because Doc Rivers was going to leave the Clippers. If Doc Rivers had left, Who's going to coach the team? Because you can best believe the coaching fraternity would have made it certain. No coaches to go there and coach. He would have been blacklisted. In other words, Sterling and the Clippers would have been blacklisted. No player is to go there and play. Because you can best believe Chris Paul would have bounced. He would have looked for the first exit out the door. And this is why I keep hearing, oh, Donald Sterling's going to challenge the league. Good luck. Because even if, let's say he does, let's say him or his wife, Shelley Sterling, or whoever, decides they're going to challenge the league. Okay? Let's assume they do, for the sake of argument. Let's go with that. Here's what the league can ultimately do. Okay, you challenge our ruling? No problem. What we're going to do is we're going to announce, because remember, everything is still ongoing. So what we're going to announce is that all the Clipper players, as well as coach, is eligible for free agency immediately. What do you think a team like the Lakers, who's going to be well under the cap this year, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to raid the Clippers. They're going to get Chris Paul and most likely Blake Griffin. Those are the two players they're going to immediately try to sign. Matter of fact, I'm saying the Lakers is probably hoping that Donald Sterling is stupid enough to even try to challenge them. This is why, folks, that challenge is not going to go anywhere. Because at the end of the day, the league can do more damage to Donald Sterling than Donald Sterling can do to the league at this point. You can best believe that. The league, why you think Adam Silver was confident in it when he says, I don't know, when he was asked that will Sterling challenge. I don't know. But he sounded confident. You could tell, it was almost like he was saying, I dare him to challenge this. That's what Adam Silver did yesterday. He basically was daring Donald Sterling to challenge this. And make no mistake about it, folks. This ruling really wasn't about Donald Sterling. I know Donald Sterling is the face of it. He's the subject of it. But it wasn't really about him. You know what this ruling was for? It's to send it to the next owner. The message was sent for the next owner who thinks about talking like this. This is now the fate that's going to be meted to you. This is to make certain that the next owner don't make the same mistake Donald Sterling made. Because you can't have a league full of owners doing things like this. You might survive one doing something like that until you get rid of them. But imagine if you had 2 or 3 talking like that. You've got a major problem if you're a league. Any league. You have a major problem on your hands. This is why you got to watch what you say. Because it will be used against you. I want to thank you for watching another segment of Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Have a good evening.